It's the Let's Talk Polyamory podcast, where we talk about all things consensual non-monogamy, polyamory, open relationships, swinging, and how you can have secure and sexy relationships, no matter how you do them. Now here's your hosts, Tara and Andre.
Hello, Andre.
Hi, Tara. What's going on?
Good. Not much.
Yeah.
Welcome to Mondays with Tara and Andre.
Yeah, here we are.
Live in Let's Talk Polyamory, and we're also broadcasting to our YouTube channel and to our public Let's Talk Polyamory business page.
Around the world and into the universe.
The universe.
Well, yeah, like the radio signal goes out into space, right? I wonder what the aliens would think of this. Oh my God, these two again. But here we are.
Here we are. If you're in either of those two places, that's not our private group, you'll want to join our groups. We'll make sure that we drop the link for that, and because that's where all the awesome content is.
Yeah, awesome.
So today's topic is how can I attract better poly partners?
Sure.
And the reason we're talking about this is because a lot of the people, I don't know if you've heard this too, tell us that it's so hard to meet the right people to date and have relationships with when they're polyamorous.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
Like for some people, I think it feels like you're swimming in this pool, but there's nobody that has water wings. That's a terrible analogy. That's
Okay.
I think I've had too much coffee and not enough food this morning.
So it's a terrible analogy, but you thought you'd use it.
Well, I just made it up on the spot.
Oh, okay.
I think dating sometimes feels like it's a needle in the haystack, especially if you're trying to find people who are polyamorous.
Sure.
So would love to ask if you could let us know, do you find it hard or easy to date being someone who identifies as polyamorous or in an open relationship? So thumbs up or yes, super easy. No, thumbs down, it's hard, or maybe it's a sometimes for you. So let us know in the comments.
That's good too. But as you asked that about whether it's difficult in dating and polyamorous, I wonder how we compare it to when we were dating as straights, as monogamous. Well, I mean, is it easier? Do you find there's a big difference, or is it that it's the climate today after COVID? I mean, who knows? It's hard to know exactly the comparison, but there are things I think specific to people dating in polyamory. For example, many of the male people that I work with, male presenting people, they often say that if they put something like that, they receive it or are being received as though they're only wanting sex. And then on the other side of that, female presenting people often say if they announce that they're looking for a polyamorous relationship, they think, well, it's all, she's promiscuous and all she wants is that. And it's interesting how that announcement comes across sometimes and how it may be misinterpreted, and how can we get clarification on that?
On my dating profiles, I announce that I'm polyamorous and that I do have multiple partners, and I try to be very specific in what I'm looking for, and I think that's part of what we're going to talk about today, because I think that helps people in determining if you're someone that they want to date. But I think in terms of is it easier, is it harder than when I wasn't polyamorous? I don't know. I feel like you still have to go through the same filtering, sorting, messaging, and that sort of thing. I recently went back on Bumble, for example, because I'm just curious to see what was going on. I hadn't been dating in a while. And one of the first people that messaged me is like, hey, you want to have fun tonight? And the fun implying booty call. And so for me, that's an instant turnoff. Whereas I met somebody else who that was not their approach. And we, started a conversation. And as a result, we're going to have a date. So
take note, listeners.
Take note.
So you're on Bumble, right? I see our switchboards lighting up already.
I'm on a few platforms, but I decided to go into Bumble. I like Bumble. We actually have a little special worksheet this week, which is more of a cheat sheet. It's an online dating checklist and has some of our favorite sites and some tips in writing your profile, what to include and that sort of thing. So I think what happens... Go ahead. Oh,
just came to mind very quickly. So as I said, the switchboards are lighting up with your announcement that you're on these sites and stuff. So when you...
come find me.
So when you do reach your maximum, quota available, do you then kind of take yourself out? So in other words, if you become polysaturated, do you keep it up there and just let people still see it and hit on it and send you a message, or do you kind of take it down and put on the no vacancy sign?
I I leave it up there,
Mhm.
which I think, and sometimes I do this terrible thing, and I actually warn people now. I said I'm terrible at the apps. So one of the first messages is I'm not good at this app. So if I don't respond right away, it's not you. I'm just not on here very often. And then if it's the right person, then we move to
Sure.
a chat.
But
I leave it open. I think people are like, I guess you're not interested, and they, unconnect, which is fine. I mean, it's fine.
A lot of people put that right on their profile, saying, I'm in here infrequently and yada yada yada. Check me there. But also interesting, though, is you might meet on one thing, and then very often, I don't know if it happens to you. Like, well, can we go talk on this other platform?
Yes.
Well, we're talking here, we're chatting here. What would be the difference? And some of them, in all fairness, say, well, I rarely come on to this site, but at the same time, well, you came on enough to meet.
Yes.
And we're talking now. So what is the other? So in other words, I'm sometimes alerted to it. I'm maybe a little bit cautious, but I wonder why they're wanting me to move to this other thing. And, I kind of err on caution a little bit. I'm a little bit, until I know the person, right? So I like to start off with an open heart. I'm assuming the best in people, but unfortunately today we have to also be a little bit mindful of the potentials of it. So, go out there, meet people, but always be careful.
I was rubbing your hand as more of a let's slow down. I think we both had a lot of coffee, or maybe it's just me and I'm influencing you.
We will talk.
So I think when you're dating or trying to find people online or to be potential partners of polyamory, you run up against a couple of things, right? So you connect with someone, you have a date, and there may not be chemistry. So that's one of them.
Yeah, that's hard to overcome, right? I mean, either there is or there isn't, right? Do you think you can actually, boost your pheromones? Are there things you can do to make yourself chemically more attractive?
No, there's just something. But I feel like sometimes I've been in that situation, I don't know if you have, where you have this great conversation with somebody and then you meet them and then you're like, it's crickets. Like, wah, wah. And it's like, what is that? Which is why one of the things that's on our checklist is you could do, like, if you're not comfortable doing an in-person date, is to do a Zoom date.
Sure.
And then you at least get to know them and you haven't, made an extraordinary effort. I don't know. It might be good. It might not be. You still might not sense the chemistry.
No, you might work well, just as you did in the text, you might work well in the Zoom and then get there and there not be that spark, that chemistry. But I wonder what happens if we were to meet them a second time. Might we then see that there is some kind of chemistry, or is it a one-shot thing? That's it. Either it connects in the key or it doesn't.
I was talking to a friend who's also dating. They don't identify as polyamorous or non-monogamous, but they said that they often will give someone a second try, just to see if there's something there, because the first dates can be kind of like awkward, and so, like, who hasn't had an awkward date?
Yeah,
like, hands up.
So what happens if the first date goes really well? You go for the second date and then there's no chemistry.
Well, then you have to be honest. And, that person also said an interesting thing to me is like, well, now that I was on this date, I was stuck in it. So also having an exit plan is always a good plan for first date, second date, that sort of thing, when you're getting to know someone. So,
okay.
What were we going to say?
I was going to go down memory lane, but it doesn't matter.
Go down memory lane with me?
No, way before, life before you believe it or not. Yes. No, I was in New York and I'd met someone online, and I guess we were both, not thrilled with the online dating experience. So we said to each other, let's meet at this restaurant on the corner. And if we get there and we think there's no chemistry, let's just tell each other from the get-go. And we met and we both looked at each other. They looked like their picture, and as I looked at my picture, but there just wasn't that thing. And we both said, no, I'm sorry. And we turned away, and we turned our heels and we left just like that. And it might sound rather harsh and very dismissive, and somehow who knows about the chemistry. Maybe we could have become friends, but we both were satisfied with that announcement that we would say that we were or were not interested, and we both walked away, and we felt as though we had spared ourselves this whole evening of just, kind of going through the motions, not really feeling it. So
have you done that since?
In such black and white terms, no, not since, no.
So what would have happened if we did that on our first date? Would we have made it? Would we have actually had the coffee? If we met outside at an espresso, would we have had the coffee?
No. The way you were dressed, I was far too snooty to want to hook up with you the way you were dressed.
I came from the studio and was wearing a tank top because we were supposed to meet later, and then the studio was closed, so we changed our time.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to go home first. So I had a white tank top and a sweater, but it was hot in there. And so I took my sweater off, and you didn't like my tank top. But
Well,
anyway.
I like your tank top. You look great. You got wonderful shoulders and everything, but it didn't, like, from where I was coming from back then, it didn't seem like it was appropriate for
a first date.
So because many people say, right, you want to lead with your best. You want to kind of like, right,
lead with your best.
And then after that, on the second date, when you're comfortable, then you come in your sweatpants and casual.
Well, your outfit was quite interesting because you had a sort of casually blazer, but then you had like a sports, like a wick-away sports top underneath it. So I'm not sure yours was a heck of a lot better.
So we might not have, we might not have been a good match. Maybe we're not a good match now.
Well, 60 years later, maybe not, but we did have a good first date. So sometimes maybe you got to see it out. And then we had that moment on the corner, which was really nice. And then,
interesting, right? Stark contrast, right? Like from where it started, we could have been both like, man, not really.
Yeah.
And yet it was one of the nicest endings, right? We stood in the corner for quite some time. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things is, so there might not be chemistry. The second thing is that you might experience is that there's not alignment with what you want. And we're going to talk a bit about why there might not be. Or you like them and then they disappear, never to be heard of.
What happened again? Was it a dream? Where did they go?
I know.
A ghost.
Like people just like, poof, disappear. So then it could leave you wondering, is it me?
Well, the short answer is yes, it's you. It's always you. It's an inside job.
It is an inside job. So just before we jump in, I'll let you know that we have a special resource today, which is our polyamory online dating guide. So you can drop dating in the comments and we'll send you the link to get that. So dating. So let's jump in. So is it me? You said it is you.
It's an inside job. But I mean, because it's not my neighbor down the street who's creating this, right? I am the driver of this train. But that being said, is it me? Yes, there may be something about them if they ghost. But then am I kind of attracting people that are likely to do those kind of things, right? So that would mean that it, again, goes back to me. I am going to be the common denominator. So I will look at what parts am I a participant in? What am I able to control? And what parts do I recognize? Well, no, actually, their communication style, their attachment style is such that they're not going to be able to comfortably say, I'm sorry, I'm not into you, and they'll just ghost. So it's a combination of the two, really.
Yeah.
But we can't really control them. So we're wanting to look at what is my partner, right? What can I do to affect the change? What am I doing to perpetuate these outcomes? And how can we affect it?
Yeah, I love that. Like, what can I do? I was just listening to something recently. They're talking about manifesting, and they're saying manifest the things that you can control. You know what I mean? In some ways, that's not like, I can't remember the exact example, but it struck me, very much so. It's like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to have this thing. And it's something that you can directly control.
For sure. Well, it creates a sense of empowerment.
In some way.
Right? So you're not just leaving it to the universe and like hoping and, that you're nothing. There are things that you can take
action
to promote and increase the possibility. And there's also things you may be doing right now that are working against you.
Yes,
so let's look
exactly. At so interestingly enough, dating, relationships, it all comes back to what we call our 7-step securely polyamorous framework. So these are the things, the essentials, the inside things and the outside things that you can work on in order to attract and keep good partners.
But that being said, this isn't only about being a solo poly and going out and finding new partners. This is about being, even in a monogamous relationship, many of these things are transferable, right? So learning how to build trust and attachment, learning how to communicate effectively, these are transferable skills even beyond romantic relationships. You may use this with your family or with your coworkers. There's a lot of things that will come through. So they're nuggets.
The must-haves, as we call them. So these are all part of our Securely Polyamorous Framework, and they're also part of our group program, Open Relationship and Polyamory Mastery, which is open for application right now, if you want to join us in that. So we take you through these 7 steps. So we'll apply these towards dating and meeting people, So the first one is our favorite. Can anyone guess in the comments what it is? Maybe someone's already said it. We got some comments.
Well, I hear somebody shouting out communication, attunement, communication.
Communication.
Right? Communication. Always the bedrock of any relationship, even the relationship with ourselves, right? Getting in touch with how we feel and how can we really become honest in things, right? So sometimes we do things like, why did I do that? And we look at our motivations, we look at our fears and all those things, but it is finding out what's at play and then being able to communicate effectively with each other. That being said, there are things about the communication styles that we go into, and like communication attunement or non-verbal communication. There's a whole bunch of different, very important aspects of communication. Because I think if you were to ask most people in the street, do you listen well? Do you speak well? Are you a good communicator? They're like, oh, without a doubt.
Yes.
And yet, when we put ourselves to the test, we're not always necessarily as effective as we think we might. And one of the most fantastic exercises is when we're really listening to understand each other. So here I am, I'm speaking, and I assume that I'm a good listener. And then people say, well, what was it that I just said? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe they hear like the last couple of words, but we really. So what we do to demonstrate that is we try not to stack, right? We try not to put very many points on it, but I might say, what I heard from you is that you said this and this, that, and the other thing. And then you might say, well, you got that. Or that's not quite what I was thinking. And then you might clarify on that. But it's so important because really then it helps to make the other person feel as though they've been seen and heard and understood, but also it helps us to know what it is we're talking about so we can address that issue. We're not going off on our own tangent like I'm doing.
Yes. So attunement communication, that's one of our attunement communication method, and nonviolent communication is something we teach in our program.
Yeah.
But as it relates to dating, I think communication, learning how to communicate when you're in person and doing that listening, and that makes you an interesting partner.
Well,
so maybe the reason you didn't have a second date is because you weren't listening, or you were just talking about yourself, or maybe they were just doing that, right?
They didn't feel, for sure.
So part of communication, and when it comes to meeting and dating, has to do with all the way from start your communication in your profile or wherever you're meeting people, in your engagement with them, asking questions. You're the one that taught me that when it's like, well, what did you say? Did you ask a question? So, one of the things is asking questions, being interested, being open and honest in that communication with those people in terms of what it is that you want, what it is you're looking for, and so that people can consent to that in that relationship.
Yeah.
So that's communication, number one. So the second part,
go.
Number two is building secure attachment. So one of the things we've talked about it several times in the group, but in terms of how it relates to meeting people and being in relationships with people, it's about understanding your own attachment style and how it may be impacting those relationships and working towards building secure attachments. So within yourself and within your relationships.
Yeah. And when you have a better understanding of your own attachment style, then you might be able to also understand and appreciate your partner or partner's relationship styles, right? So, or attachment styles rather. So you'd be able to identify that and say, oh, I'm like that too. Or, oh, that's not like me at all. But you would have the knowledge to be able to recognize these things and course correct, adjust from there and see how you're able to, gain the outcome that you're looking for.
We just finished working with a couple, and what was so exciting is how that they were so well aware of their attachment styles by the end and identify them, and also identify what's happening in their partner. So within themselves, they could recognize for the one person who was more avoidant when they were wanting to go into their bubble, and the other person when they were wanting to go closer, and they worked towards finding a space where they could meet in the middle and be able to have both space and connection at the same time. It was magical. I love when that happens. It's so exciting.
Absolutely, because they were able to understand and appreciate where they were coming from and where their partner was coming from and how they would be able to intertwine more seamlessly, right? So it really served them well to have a better understanding of that, and they're able to go about it. They seem better for that.
Yeah. So knowing your attachment style and knowing what kind of attachment you want in another person. So if you're dating and looking for somebody, if somebody's not responsive, not engaging with you, maybe that's not the right person for you. You know what I mean? So some of these things are, building your own attachment within yourself, but also recognizing others and identifying if it's a good fit for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the third one in the must-haves that support, meeting and attracting and keeping better partners is jealousy, overcoming jealousy, and building security.
Yeah, how does that factor in? Why should that be on the list?
Well, So a couple of things can happen. So it can happen within your own relationship. So say you're already in a relationship and you're dating others. If there's any sort of residual jealousy or insecurity within that relationship, you can bring that into another relationship with somebody else. So you could also be jealous yourself. So even if you have multiple partners, you may not want someone else to have multiple partners, that sort of thing. So,
sure. And if you, let's say you are coming from a position of jealousy, justified or not, from your past, you might bring that forward into your next relationship and start looking for things, indicators that would justify your jealousy that may not really be present at all.
Yeah. So behaving in a way that's jealous to a new partner can be something that's very off-putting to someone.
Yeah, I don't imagine too many people are putting
Is that
it at the top of the list.
Understatement of the year?
Well, sometimes the most obvious things kind of go overlooked, but it's absolutely true because, we might be framing it in a way that is just going to be turning people right off, and we might not even be aware of it. So by talking about these things, by looking at them openly and honestly, we become more self-aware, and then we become informed, and then we can course correct if necessary, or go for what it is and find a way to get more of it that way.
One of the things when you were talking that I was thinking of, I should have been listening, active listening, was around jealousy as it relates to when you're first meeting someone, and say you're someone who really likes to text and say hello and stuff like that. If someone else is not that kind of person, they may perceive that as being really needy or jealous or insecure with things. Yeah. And so one of the things you might want to do when you first meet someone is letting them know what your style of communication is. Like, I really like to text. Is that something that you enjoy? Because then you can monitor and adapt accordingly. So if there's someone that's like, no, I just, I don't like the, hey, how you're doing every morning, it seems too much, then maybe either that's not the right person for you, or you may need to adapt only if it works for you, though.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, you might even allow yourself to go out of your preferred comfort zone and say, okay, it's not my favorite modality, but until some people, they don't want to text much before they meet. Like, I don't want to be spending a lot of time texting people that I may never meet. So they may say, well, I prefer to keep it brief. And that may not be your mode of communication, your preferred, but you might allow for it if you find that there is some point of interest, and then bring them over. But I think either way, it really is so important and ideal if we can announce our preference, right? And then we'll see if the other person is wanting to accommodate, right? So if you say, I really would like to text a little bit first, and they're a hard no, well, doesn't that inform us as the type of person they are? Maybe we want someone who's very determined, and we say, okay, that's wonderful. They're confident to say no. Or we might say, well, they're not really that flexible. They're not that considerate. And is that how I want to go into it? Either way, it will be a lot of information that will inform you. And as somebody had put earlier in the comments that I just saw,
it's right here.
It might not be, so totally get it. In as much as chatting on text may not be the best mode of communication, for some it may be still the first introduction to a person's personality. Absolutely. So, all communications make us, give us data and inform us.
We have a slightly contrary. Okay. So this person was about talking on a call. And having some sort of talk with them on the phone or voice within the first day or two of meeting you online. So bot or trying to scam me.
Right.
Have you had many people, maybe they've had experience with people scamming them? I know you've had some people reach out. I've had people reach out to me, but I don't know if it's been bots though. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say really, because, I think I get like some friend requests or kind of like flirtations, and it seems so foreign, so far away psychically, like it just doesn't seem to match or anything. And it makes me wonder, like what is really the personal profile behind these things?
Yeah. Okay, so we did the first three. So it was communication, attachment, overcoming jealousy. And the fourth part is what we do in our program. It's called your relationship blueprint. So in other words, that is knowing exactly what it is you want, and being clear with the people who you want to meet, what that is for you. And I think that's super important, especially if you are dating people who may not identify primarily as someone who's consensual non-monogamous, or even if they do, because I really like this idea of people we meet consenting to what it is they're getting into. And maybe that's not the first conversation you have, but it's why I have that I'm polyamorous on my profile and what I'm sort of looking for.
It makes me think about your profile, and I think it's Bumble, that one of the options is you're looking for a relationship, you're looking for marriage, you're looking for something casual, and you're looking for I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to announce that as I don't know yet. And I always wonder, I think every time I see that, is it just a way of saying, well, I want something that's not this, but I find it perhaps difficult to announce that in the first setting, right? So it kind of like leaves it open. But what is the communication to that? Like, what are they wanting to say by saying, I don't know yet? And maybe they just don't know, but I'm wondering if it is a kind of like a pass for like, well, let's meet and we'll talk about it and then I'll tell you.
Yeah, and we were having this conversation the other day about choosing that option that says that you want a relationship. Because often I think when you hear that, you think, oh, I want a relationship, a committed, monogamous relationship, exclusive monogamous relationship. But we were talking about like why can't we put that we want a relationship and define what that relationship is? Because I don't want hookups. I want relationships with people, as do you.
Right. Yeah. Ideally, I'd want an ongoing loving relationship, committed in many ways, right? And just all of the trappings, many of the trappings of other relationships without the exclusivity. But it is interesting how very often in profiles, I'll see that it says, I want a serious relationship. I mean, I have very important people in my life that I consider very serious.
Yeah. And other people that we've met that are becoming more serious too, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're just as committed, just as important relationships. Well, they're different relationships, but they're important. Like if you asked any of those people that we know, like our friends that are coming tonight, if you asked them, you needed something and you asked them for that, they would like drop everything and do it, right? So to me, that is commitment, that is ongoing, that's serious, a loving and serious relationship, And so I think that's interesting. So I think I would encourage everybody, and maybe we should all do it, is to put on our profiles that we want relationships, if that's what you want, even if you're polyamorous or an open relationship.
So by on the other side of that, then if I say on my relationship I want something casual, does that kind of give you the impression, or does it seem to indicate that I'm wanting something like for random hookups or one night stands or friends with benefits? I mean,
I personally would delve into that idea about casual, because again, that's another situation where people define things differently. So someone may say my dating style when I date solo is casual. It's not a relationship, even though for me, I would say that I am looking for relationships, ongoing relationships for people, and it's not casual. It's maybe more, it's just infrequent. It's less frequency.
Could it be an ongoing, committed, casual relationship?
Yeah.
What would that look like?
It would look like.
And so an ongoing, we've met and we continue to meet on occasion, and casual, I'm not asking too much of you emotionally, right? We get together, there's not a whole big commitment. And what else? Ongoing, casual, committed?
Committed.
Well, the committed part, what would that look like?
Well, commitment can look like, I'm going to reach out and keep in touch with you even when I'm not around, or like I'm going to let you know what's going on in my life.
Well, that's interesting. It could be the level of commitment, right? I mean, even being in an exclusive relationship, there are people who say, well, I don't want to text with my husband every day. If you're not.
But you'll text with your people you're dating. That's a whole other. Some people do.
Some people don't.
Some people don't, but I think sometimes that's what happens in relationships when you're in a, particularly I think people who are in an open relationship transitioning towards polyamory. So they may have started doing activities together, but now are dating people separately, perhaps. And I think sometimes it's easy to let go of that primary or nesting or anchor relationship and not do those things like text photos and, you might text sexy photos to someone you're dating, but you may not, do it to your partner.
Right.
So it's like those are important things to remember. So that's a good connection to number 6.
But that's like the NRE, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the newness of our relationship is kind of like, fallen off a little bit. We might not appreciate or send each other those pictures as frequently, and yet for the new person we do. So that also tells us about maintaining our own relationship too, right? Things that need to happen to still make each other feel so we're wanted and appreciated.
Yeah, so let's jump ahead to 6, which is building connection, since we're talking about that. So it's building connection with people that you're meeting and having ongoing relationships with, but also maintaining connection with your existing partners, having quality time, and not just going off into NRE, Never land.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you might have somebody who's overall considered not very jealous. And then NRE comes in, all of a sudden the circumstances change, they see their partner change, and now it creates those feelings of jealousy, right? So we get an understanding of what is going on and how we can both be participants in that, or how we could be less affected by it.
Yeah, I think it's important if you're going to do this polyamory thing for the long term that you nurture all your relationships, especially if you spend more time with someone, if you are nesting, if you have kids, if you're married and that sort of thing. It's not to say you can't have really amazing other relationships, but you need to nurture the one that you had originally as well, which is something that we work on in our program.
Yeah.
So we skipped over number 5, which is knowing your personal boundaries and establishing your values-based agreements. So the boundaries is a good one. Knowing what your personal boundaries are is super important.
It sure is.
Because it can also help you define what types of relationships that you do want with other people.
But, you know, as you were saying that, knowing your own personal boundaries, the first thing that I thought of, as you said that, was one of the benefits, one of the reasons why I need to know my own personal boundaries is to create a feeling of safety and security within myself. So I know what I'm allowing, I know what I'm wanting, I know what is not permitted, and I'm able to feel secure in that knowledge, and then I communicate it to the other person and find out how they're able to acknowledge that and be consenting to that as well. So it's important because it frames how I'm going to go on that first date, or how I'm going to be in the relationship, feeling secure or not.
Yeah, and there may be things that you want to share about your boundaries in advance, and your beliefs around your boundaries, and that people that you want to be with will want to know what your boundaries are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, perhaps we're not going to share all of our boundaries, but if there are some that are applicable to them, maybe it is a good time to announce that going forward, right? So one of my boundaries might be like, I'm never going to do this. I just don't feel comfortable. And we have the idea that maybe it is a big deal for the other person. Maybe it is something that they're looking for. So if we can communicate that earlier on, it saves both of us time and trouble.
Right.
And we might say, well, I'm sorry, but that's a deal breaker for me. I'm not into that, or I must have that. Or we say, no, that's exactly what I'm also feeling and thinking. And then we know we're well aligned.
One of the clients I work with, one of their boundaries is they want to take things slow with people. And they were feeling like it was hard to communicate that with people. And so we were working on their beliefs around that. And, you know, I think a lot of people, that's how they want to proceed, in a slow way, and just saying like, this is how I would like to proceed. And I think that's totally cool. And if the person's not cool with it, it's also a good indication of whether or not they're the right person for you as well. So personal boundaries, and then establishing values-based agreements. So that might be with any of your current partners, and also communicating any agreements you have that may impact people that you're dating, so that they can consent to it. Because that's the thing with agreements. Everyone has to agree. And so they may agree with their feet and go away, or they may go, yeah, that's something I'm into, or, oh, I'm not comfortable with that, or can you tell me more about that? But those are things, is part, the thing that we talk about in our program with people, is knowing your agreements.
And that brings us to number 7, the final one.
One is reviews and check-ins. So that can be formal reviews with your partner, and also just regular check-ins as well. So you may have regular check-ins more frequently with your partners. How are things going? What do you like? What are you looking for? How's it going? You know, I think you would probably get into that once you get to know someone, but it is
interesting. No, because I think maybe you do get into that. But I was going back to the first date scenario, and I wonder what it's like at the end of the date when somebody asks you, so what'd you think? Did you have a good time? Would you like to go out again? Is it good to ask at the end of a first date? Or does it put people on the spot and like, well, you know, if it went south, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. Do you say it right there? Or is it better, easier for you, right? Because now, you know, once upon a time, back in the day before telephones and letters and all stuff, I guess you'd have to announce it there and then, or you'd see each other in church again or whatever it was. But
in church.
Well, many people did meet that way, right? You know, they didn't have that much social access. But the thing is, do you have a preference? Would you prefer to be asked? Because some people are like, well, you know, it's going well, like ask me out for a second date there and then. And other people are like, yeah, I'd prefer to, like, you know, have some time to think about it. Or are we picking up on someone's done it for us, right? So here we are, we're on our first date, and like, you know, during the whole time, like we're touching each other, we're close to each other, we're laughing, there's no dead moments, we don't feel icky or awkward. Or are we like kind of like, you know, leaning away and not really that engaged? Are we already getting the messaging? So how can we become more attuned to that?
But some people, they may just be shy, right?
They
Or
might be.
uncomfortable.
Sure.
So you really can't read the cues. You really have to communicate.
Well, that was the first part, right? Is being comfortable in communicating and being comfortable asking.
Are you comfortable if somebody asks you, like, of saying no, you don't want to go out if you don't like them again?
Not 100% comfortable, because I guess I have certain empathy as to how they might feel, and it might make me feel uncomfortable having these uncomfortable feelings. But at the same time, I don't want to lead them on. I don't want to give them the impression that it is. So I would prefer to say, it was nice meeting them, but I think maybe I'm not really feeling it. Yeah. But that being said, I remember not too long ago, I did go on a date with somebody. I did like them, and we said that we would go out together again. But my schedule was, between Montreal, Toronto, New York, all that.
Yes.
It took a while, and then they contacted me and they were accusing me of ghosting, and it was coming off of a week of our talking about ghosting, and they're like, well, you ghosted me. And I was like, I'm sorry that it feels that way, but I had not gotten time to get back to you. But my intention was to get back to them. So anyway, but I think, if you know either way, then yes, you should probably try and say it.
I like this one. If I want to see them again, I'll say, text me when you get home. That's a nice one. That's interesting.
Nice.
It'd be fun to like come up with things that you could say, or how you might exit a situation that's not working. That's always a great idea.
But if it is working, what if it's like at the end of the, we say we're going to go for a drink, we go for a drink, we leave the bar, and like, did you have a good time? And you're like, yeah, well, do you want to start date number 2 right now?
I don't usually do that. I have a very specific.
I don't think I've ever done it, but it just came to mind. So we'll see.
Oh, you've never done it before? You're blushing.
Maybe just a few times, but never. No.
Would you like to continue date number 2?
No, I've never done it.
Okay, so just to review the 7 things, which are the same things that are in our Securely Polyamorous Framework. It's really about being secure within yourself and also working on the things that you need to have a good relationship both with yourself and with others. So attunement, communication, overcoming jealousy.
Relationship blueprint.
So knowing your relationship style that you want.
Announcing our personal boundaries and recognizing theirs.
Yep.
Right?
And creating your values-based agreement.
And the relationship reviews.
No, building connection.
Building connection. Yes, thank you.
And then any relationship reviews and check-ins. And the process we teach is radar, which we talk about, I think, in one of our other talks.
Yes.
Radar.
Yeah.
And
with the extra A.
With an extra A. So what did you think? So I hope this helps. So just a couple announcements before we go. If you haven't seen, I'm offering a pay what you can coaching session for individuals and couples. So it's an hour session. You can pay what you can. So you can buy me a coffee, essentially, all the way up to my full fee, whatever feels good for you. But I would love to help people navigate their open relationship and polyamory. I love helping people. I love talking to people about their stories and get you on an action plan of next steps. And so I'm offering that. Oh, I was going to show the little picture. I can drop the link after. There I am. My friend took that picture of me. I thought that was kind of fun. And then the other thing is we have our program, Open Relationship and Polyamory Mastery, which we talked about the 7 components of that, is open for application now. So if you want to learn about that, let us know. Basically, it's a program. We take you through all the steps you need to master your relationship. So all the way from attunement communication to all the other things we talked about today, building your values-based agreement, understanding your boundaries, all these things to make you feel like you can go out and meet and attract the people that you want while also maintaining and having an amazing relationship.
Awesome.
Which is awesome.
It sure is.
And so finally, the last thing is if you want that online dating checklist, please drop, what did I say? Dating in the comments, and I'll send you the link to grab that.
Cool.
That was fun.
That was very fun.
Hope you're having a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks all. Bye. If you want to explore polyamory, open up a relationship, or try your hand at swinging, we can help. Check out our website at taranandre.com for information on our Poly Newbies digital course or our deeper dive open relationship and polyamory mastery program where you get direct coaching from us. There's also other individual and couples coaching options there as well. Thanks for listening to the Let's Talk Polyamory podcast with T&A. Don't forget to subscribe and and give us some love on your favorite podcasting platform. You can check out the show notes for any of the links to the courses or information we talked about today. Thanks, and have a fantastic and sexy day.